Hi, I'm Autumn,
And I'm Laura,
and together we're the
the Boo
Boo Sisters.
Sisters. It's a day before Halloween and all through the house. I
Not
don't
a
know how that would
creature
go.
was stirring, or lots of creatures were stirring. Okay, well, happy Halloween, Boo Crew. We are so excited because tomorrow is Halloween.
The tomorrow of when this comes out, we're going trick or treating as the Scooby Gang,
Yeah, and I don't feel like we've spent a Halloween together for 15 years.
at least. Yeah,
Which is silly because we do everything paranormal together except for Halloween.
except Halloween.
And it's been a little over a year since we started this journey of Boo Sisters. And I just want to say to people listening, never be embarrassed about the things that make your heart light up. No matter how weird or different they might seem, just embrace it. And I just want to thank everyone for embracing the paranormal weirdness with us over the past year because it's really given a light to Laura and to myself. So thank
Yes.
you very much.
No matter how dark and creepy you are, we still love you. Oh my gosh, is that the Disney Halloween mug?
Yeah,
I saw that at TJ Maxx and I was gonna get it for you. And you know why I didn't?
because you thought I already had it,
No,
which I do.
because I was like, she tells me all the time she has too many mugs.
I do have too many mugs, but I saw this and like it's not painted, right? It's like
Yeah.
embossed on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have to have this mug. It's like my two favorite things. Yeah,
Well,
James is
I was
getting
correct.
mad at me for all of my Halloween and ghost mugs. He's like, I think we need to pack up ghost and Halloween mugs like we do our Christmas mugs.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, that's fine, except for like two that I should just be allowed to use all year. So I have to pick kind of like what my favorite ones are.
I mean, that's fair. You should also be able to get them out, say, in September or something.
I have a
Um,
problem with collecting coffee mugs. It is my weakness. I don't know what to do about it. I did try a iced pumpkin spice latte blonde, Laura.
that's my favorite pumpkin drink from
And
Starbucks, right?
yes, I tried it
Okay.
how you instructed me to try it because the hot one, in my opinion, was fine. It was like middle of the road. And the ice one was not good. It was
Rude.
not good. I'm sorry, but it was like wet cinnamon and sugar toast. I
That
don't know.
sounds okay to me. Like,
Oh, it was
it
like
sounds like cinnamon toast crunch cereal.
I didn't like it, but to each his own.
Do you
So it was just not my
normally
favorite.
drink hot or cold coffee beverages?
Hot.
Specialty ones. Okay, so maybe
Yeah.
you're just used to those.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, every once in a while I'll get a frappuccino, but other than that, I get all my chais and all of my lattes and all of my flavored drinks hot, even if it's summer. So,
And did you know that frappuccinos have virtually no coffee in them? It's very little, and some of them have zero coffee.
yeah, did you know you can also order them for your kids? You can say
Yes.
no coffee. I
Hmm.
didn't know that until just recently. I also learned yesterday the difference between a dolphin and a porpoise reading to Ainsley. So, that's another
Okay.
cool thing I learned. A dolphin has a long
Hmm.
nose,
Okay.
and a porpoise has a blunt nose.
Okay,
So,
that makes sense. We're back to Zoo Sisters, episode two.
hmm,
So, as an intro today, Autumn, I found a couple things online. You know how I do sometimes, like the one episode where we talked about different crazy things you could find on Facebook Marketplace for sale, like Ouija boards that were burned and tried to be destroyed. Do you remember that?
yeah. Yes, that's so crazy because since we talked about it, I've been paying attention and it is a real thing. You can just get a haunted Ouija board at almost any time you want.
Or crosses from a demon house that's
Right.
supposedly just, an estate sale, and other haunted items I'm sure are out there too.
I just saw something. I saw this post and it was of a porcelain doll.
Mm.
The listing said something like, I got this porcelain doll at an estate sale. The sellers told me that all of the dolls there, which was about 40 or 50 dolls, were haunted and that I should purchase them at my own risk. I don't believe in haunted things, and I did purchase this porcelain doll, but I don't want it anymore if anyone else wants it. That was like
That's
the
great.
gist. Yeah.
And for no
So,
reason whatsoever, I
right.
am going to give this away for free. You don't have to pay me for it. Just come pick it up today, please.
Exactly. It was so funny.
Not at all
Uh,
haunted doll. Yeah, that's great. I love it. If
yeah.
you stumble upon it again, you should take a screenshot and share it. And if anybody else sees anything like that, please share it with us. We love that sort of thing. It's
Yeah.
great.
Love
It's
it.
hilarious. So speaking of Ouija boards, I came upon this post in my online scrolling business, and the post is a picture of a sign posted on a restroom door, and it says, due to recent events, Ouija boards are no longer permitted in the restrooms. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Was
Like,
it a
what?
real, do you know for sure it was like a real sign?
I would imagine it's probably a joke from management or something at a store that has good sense of humor. That
Yeah.
seems like something that would be posted around Halloween time,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. But either way, whether it's real or not is pretty hilarious. I think if I saw that on a door, I would just burst out laughing.
That is hilarious. I wonder what even transpired to even make them think it was funny or even, you just don't think of something like that. Something have had to have happened.
Right. It can't have just been out of the blue.
Right.
Maybe somebody was trying to summon demons in the bathroom. Maybe they were cursing or something under their breath in there. And somebody came out and was like, someone's trying to summon demons in there.
Yeah. That is
And
super strange.
the other post that I saw that was also signage was a sign, and this is a permanent sign, okay? Not just like a paper stuck on a door, but a permanent sign at a cemetery in the parking lot. Okay, so you can
Okay.
imagine this picture, and maybe we can share this too. It's next to the parking lot, so you can see cars behind it. And on the sign, it says, wipe your feet in all capitals with an exclamation point. Are you giving ghosts a free ride? When you walk over their graves, the ghosts who reside there can cling to your shoes, then come off later and haunt where they are unwanted. Help protect these fragile boundary between the land of the living and the spirits of the dead. Don't accidentally introduce invasive ghosts. Please use the ghost brush before leaving the cemetery. Thank you.
That has to be a joke about like invasive seeds and stuff.
I don't know. I couldn't tell because it is a permanent sign. It's clearly got like rust on the screws holding it in place. It looks like it's been there for a while. And it says on the bottom, City of Portland Bureau of Supernatural Containment.
That's weird. I don't know. I still feel like it's a big joke.
Okay, but if it were a big joke, wouldn't it have to have official insignia of like the park or whoever, the grounds people were in charge?
I don't know. I
I
feel like,
don't even know
or
it's real anymore.
yeah, because if you put up something that looks real, that looks permanent, it's most
Mhm.
likely to stay, even if it's a joke.
It's on a metal pole that looks like the pole is only there because of this sign. So I actually tracked this back to a blog, and it said they think it was inspired by the foot brushes at trailheads that discourage the spread of invasive plants, like you say,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but that they don't think that there are any invasive plants or anything there. So it's either just an homage to that meant to be funny, or they're trying to ask people to not walk on the graves to be respectful. And it's just a fun
In
way of
like a
saying that.
funny way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, Every graveyard should put that up,
Yeah,
I think.
I think it's cute.
I love it.
All right, Autumn, I think it's your turn to go first.
So, before I get started, we know that some families listen to this podcast, which we so love. And we are so thrilled that the next generation is getting interested in the paranormal. As a word of caution, this episode deals with some pretty heavy and scary stuff and may not be the right episode for some of our younger viewers. As a quick warning, this haunting does involve some references to child neglect and abuse.
And just
The
remember, anybody who would like a little bit more on the light side of scary, you can always go to our website and see the actual boo scale ratings of the episodes before you watch them. Before you listen to them.
Someday maybe people can watch them. Who knows? Okay. So the following story is a dramatization based on real reported events. So today I bring you into Gettysburg. The year is 1875 and we're inside the orphan's homestead. The mornings always begin before the sun does. The bell rings once, a short, sharp clang that echoes off the stone walls and wakes the mice in the corners. The air in our room is cold enough to see our breath. The plaster on the ceiling is cracked. Flakes of it drift down when the wind rattles the window panes. We sleep 6 to a room, sometimes more, on sacks stuffed with straw and rags. The smell is sour. Sweat, soap, and damp wood all mixed together. The littlest ones don't always wake right away, so I nudge them and whisper, "Hurry!" You never want Miss Carmichael to catch you still lying down. When we line up in the hallway, the boards groan under our bare feet. The corridor runs long and narrow. Painted a sickly yellow, the candlelight turns to gray. The walls are bare and unfriendly. The homestead seems to lack any natural light, especially in the winter. Then we hear her, Miss Rosa Carmichael. Her boots make slow, deliberate sounds, and the keys at her waist jingle softly. A warning in every step. She smells of starch and coal smoke. She walks past, eyes sharp and narrow, inspecting us like she's counting livestock. Sometimes she stops and just stares until you feel yourself shrinking under her gaze. Today, she stops at me. "Eyes down," she says. I obey. Breakfast is in the main hall, a low, drafty room with tall windows too high for most of us to see out of. The walls are dark wooded pane, which seem to make the space even more confining. Oatmeal again, cold and lumpy, ladled from a black iron pot. The smell of smoke clings to it. We eat in silence. The only sounds the scrape of spoons. Sarah, the new girl, nearly 3, drops her spoon. It clatters like thunder in the quiet. Miss Carmichael doesn't shout. She only points to the desk in the corner. Sarah has to stand on top of the desk for hours, her face turned to the wall, her thin little shoulders trembling due to the weakness in her little legs. After breakfast, the boys go outside to chop wood. We girls scrub floors. The soap burns my hands. The bristles tear at my knuckles. The floorboards are so old that dust rises in small clouds each time you wipe, and the splinters embed themselves in your fingertips. The air smells of lye, iron, and old sickness, the scent that never leaves this house. The basement door is always locked, but it hums in the back of your mind. Even with the door closed, you can hear muffled crying. We all know what happens down there. When it's time to sleep, the halls echo with the sound of her locking the doors. One by one, the keys turn. I lie on my straw sack and stare at the window. The moonlight doesn't reach us here. It only paints a thin line on the floor. My hands sting from the scrubbing and my stomach gnaws with hunger. I try to remember my mother's face, but all I can recall is her voice, soft, warm, full of songs. Tomorrow will be the same. The bell, the cold, the silence, the smell of lye and smoke. That is what home is now.
Man, that's so sad.
I know it's not a fun one. It's not a fun one, and I'm only laughing because it's so devastating. And I think that's what makes this haunting so scary is because it's about something so dark, right? It's not one of the light-hearted hauntings that we've done in the past where
Hmm.
you have these spirits protecting their house because they love their house so much, or spirits who are still on a ship because they're still captain of their ship, or XYZ. Like, this is a dark, very dark person who existed in life, and it's a dark
Entity,
remnants
potentially.
of a haunting.
There's a video game that came out more recently called Out of Sight. And it's a video game that's actually really cool. I highly recommend it if anybody is into horror games. It takes place in an orphanage sort of place like this. And this kind of just made me think of it. You play as a little girl who is blind in this orphanage. And she, of course, can't see things herself, but she has a teddy bear she carries around with her, and you see through the eyes of the teddy bear, but you direct the girl. So, like, you place the teddy bear somewhere in the room, and then you move the girl around as through the teddy bear's eyes, you're seeing the room and what she does. And it's a puzzle solving game to basically escape the orphanage.
Oh my gosh, that's so weird.
But it sounded so similar to this. Like
Yeah.
there's an evil lady and she has a henchman guy, and she made some statements like you made in your story, and I was just like, oh, it's so creepy and ugh.
I mean, I'm sure lots of orphanage from
Right.
this time period was this same. Like, what do we
Mm-hmm.
do with these desolate, abandoned children that don't have parents? It's so sad because they're basically treated like bad inmates of a prison or something.
In this case, I think the woman was using the kids in some sort of dark ritual, but
Oh gosh.
hopefully it doesn't happen in your story. Let's see.
Well, I mean, there's lots of things we probably don't know, and we'll get into that, but geez. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. So this is the Gettysburg Orphanage under the reign of Miss Rosa Carmichael. However, it wasn't actually always so horrible. The orphanage began with the best of intentions. After the Battle of Gettysburg, which ended in the July of 1863, the town was left in ruins. Fields that once grew wheat and corn were turned into graveyards. Homes were shattered, barns filled with the wounded, and we all know a lot of the history of the Civil War and how much death and destruction there was. Especially if, I mean, we're just talking about this one city, too, not even
Mm-hmm.
the whole country. So on July 1st, 1863, it's the first day of the Battle of Gettysburg. A Union soldier named Sergeant Amos Humiston fought to protect his comrades as they fell back toward Cemetery Hill. Surrounded by Confederate fire, Amos ran desperately, but he was mortally wounded. As he lay dying, he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a small photograph, an image of his three little children, which was sent to him by his wife, Philinda. In a letter written not long before his death, he had said to her, "How I want to see them again, and their mother is more than I can tell. I hope that we may all live to see each other again." Days later, his body was found still clutching that photograph. No name, no uniform tag, just a father holding on to his children. A Philadelphia doctor named John Bournes saw that image he was clutching and it moved him. He published the photograph in newspapers across the North, hoping that someone would recognize the children so they could identify this father. By October, the Humiston family had learned the truth. Amos was gone. Bournes couldn't forget that image or the thousands of other children like this that were left fatherless by the war. So he began raising money by selling copies of the photo. And with those funds, he constructed something new. He bought a home for orphans of Union soldiers, right there in Gettysburg. A
Mm.
private home was sold to become the orphanage. A small note here, that home during the actual battles was also used as a field hospital, as many homes in Gettysburg were during the battle. So I'm not going to go into what that means, but
You can
as
imagine it meant a lot of
right.
death and
We
pain.
can right. So it's just a lot to think about what happened in that home before it was sold and turned into an orphanage. So the orphanage opened in 1866 as the National Soldiers Orphan Homestead. 12 boys and 10 girls were the beginning of the organization that by 1868, 2 years later, it numbered 60 children. And by 1869, it was officially overcrowded with orphan children. From 1869 through Rosa Carmichael's tenure, records are a little bit sketchy, but we do know there could have been up to a few hundred children living in this orphanage, which
In
is
a single
tiny.
house, it's just one house.
Yeah. Later on, they built additional dormitories for the kids, but even so, it's still there today and it's still tiny. Like kids were just crammed into rooms.
Do you know how many rooms the house had? I know houses back then were slightly different. Like they might have held bigger families, multiple families.
I don't know that, and I'm not sure you could figure it out because it's changed so much over the
True.
past years.
True. Yeah.
At first, it was a place of kindness. Belinda Humiston, Amos's widow, became its first matron, along with another Gettysburg resident, Sarah Broadband, as the headmistress. Belinda and her children lived among the others, giving them the warmth and care she had given to her own. The children studied, played, and even marched each Memorial Day to honor the soldiers who had given their lives. For a short while, Hope lived in that house. But when Belinda remarried and left Gettysburg with her children just a few years later, everything changed. Her replacement, Rosa Carmichael, was not a woman of compassion. By 1873, whispers had become outcries. The town began to take notice when in 1876, the orphaned children who had always marched proudly in the Memorial Day parade were suddenly missing. They never came. Concerned, local veterans from the Grand Army of the Republic launched an investigation, and what they discovered was shocking. They ended up finding at least one child had died of malnourishment under her care. Carmichael was arrested and charged with cruelty to an orphan. She was convicted of aggravated assault and fined only $20 and told to leave Gettysburg.
So the story that you wrote and read, you found all of those incidents in.
Yeah, I'm about to tell you some more stuff.
Okay.
Buckle in. So she was fined the $20. She was told to leave Gettysburg, but she didn't. She came back to the orphanage and somehow was allowed to do so, and the suffering continued.
What?
Yeah.
Was it under a different name or how
No, I
even?
just don't think that people really cared. I'm going to post in our show notes. There's actual like court documents and records from her court case. And there's also a couple of news articles, which is shocking because the court is basically blaming what we would call like the board or the council of the
Mm-hmm.
orphanage that they allowed this to happen and continue happening and not making her actually leave.
That's so
And
twisted.
yeah, it's crazy. I just don't think people cared enough, right? It's the common like it's not my kid. I don't care.
Or people did care, but a lot of times you just don't know what to do. You're like, how can I
I'm
make
just
this
one
better?
person. How can I
Yeah,
make
I
leave?
can't take these kids. There's nobody
Yeah.
here who can take them or help them.
Mm-hmm.
They're better off with somebody rather than nobody. Maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know.
Right. So, under Rosa Carmichael's rule, discipline became punishment. What began as a home for healing turned into a house of cruelty that sometimes held hundreds of children in a small space. Testimonies from former residents describe a regime of fear. Children locked in dark closets, forced to kneel for hours on bare floors, whipped for the smallest infractions. Rosa abused the children terribly, whipping the youth and forcibly restraining them from inside the house. She made young children stand on their desks for hours, and if their legs were to give out, they would fall from dangerous heights. Sometimes, instead, she would tie the kids to the fence out back and let them melt in the humidity of the hot summer sun. She forced the older girls to wear boys' clothing when they didn't know how to mend their own dresses. She recruited the older teenage boys, 14 to 19, as her own little police force, her stick gang. They were allowed to hit the younger children when her gang felt that the littles were not listening, following rules, or they were fighting with other children. So she basically was giving these older boys permission to inflict cruelty upon other kids. She went so far as to prevent individuals from entering the building on behalf of the children. If doctors wanted to examine the orphanage occupants, she made them do so on the front porch. Some of the worst abuses
How humiliating. Like, even as a kid,
right,
when you're so
right,
less embarrassed by things, but having to do that in front of even just your peers, let alone
on
the
the front
neighbors or
porch.
whoever else was outside.
Right. Some of the worst abuses transpired in the cellar basement of the orphanage, where children were confined to a tiny alcove called the pit, which is a pitch dark shaft that's 4 feet by 8 feet in the depths of the basement. You can still visit the pit today. It's surrounded by the original stone walls and wood beams. Other children were shackled to the wall, sometimes for days without nourishment and no light. Think about being 5, 6, or even 10 maybe, and being shackled to a cold basement wall with no light or food. I would be horrified.
To be in the dark and to be alone, I think is one of the scariest things as a kid.
Right. And what you need most as a kid, especially I think when you're acting up, is to be loved and feel
Hmm.
comfort, not to be punished. One of the original chains still hangs in the basement wall today.
That's horrifying.
What is even worse is that the hands of the littlest kids didn't fit in the shackles. Children 3, 4, and 5, they could easily slip out. So instead, they were put into barrels of ice cold water in the same bleak darkness of the basement for days, nearly drowning in their own bodily fluids when their legs would give out.
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
So horrible.
Mm-hmm. All these little kids.
So all
Like,
of this, the like police saw when they came.
they found all of the remnants, but the court documents have the kids testify and the older kids, and these are all the things that they reported happening in the house.
Oh man, and you know what I just thought of too?
Yeah.
If they testified and then she came back, she would have known who testified.
Well, I think the older kids that testified, they found alternative residence for them. Like they were out of there when she came back.
Still.
Yeah. So by the summer of 1877, the truth about what had been happening inside the Gettysburg orphanage could no longer be hidden. A Philadelphia newspaper finally broke the story: the beatings, the punishments, the cruelty under Rosa Carmichael's rule. The report spread quickly and was reprinted in the Gettysburg Star and Sentinel. By December, the doors of the orphanage were shut for good. The children were taken away and given new homes, and Rosa was officially now run out of town. The building changed hands over the years. First, it was a duplex in 1903, then a cozy bed and breakfast by 1915, and in 2013, it was also a museum called Civil War Tales, Tails, which was filled with tiny cat figurines reenacting battle scenes.
I am so like confused between horrified and thinking that that's an awesome idea.
Yeah. So a few years ago, it was renovated to look close to how it did when it operated as an orphanage. During the renovation, they discovered several things inside the walls, including buttons and coins from the time period. also toys such as handmade wooden dolls, and they think that the children themselves hid the dolls inside the nooks and crannies of the walls to keep their toys away from other kids and ensure they weren't taken by Rosa.
Oh,
I know. In the fireplace area, they also discovered some hidden compartments and a lockbox that actually didn't have anything in it. But in that fireplace wall area, they also found a rib bone of a tiny child.
what? Why just a
Yeah,
rib bone?
I don't know where the other bones went, but I mean, they know that one child died under in her care, and I just feel like probably more did also, right?
But why just one piece?
I don't know. It's a like maybe animals ate it. So today, the Children's Orphanage is preserved as part of Gettysburg Historic Walking Tours and for paranormal experiences. That was some dark history of this property, and we're now gonna go into some hauntings.
I don't know if I can handle more stories, although it's sounding more and more like that out of sight game.
Is it? Yeah, with the toys and stuff, like the
Yeah.
bear. Yeah. Okay. Many investigations have taken place in this space, especially in the last few years. In fact, Jason Hawes just released a YouTube video of an investigation he conducted there this summer. And a little bird told me that soon both Project Fear and Expedition X will be releasing investigations at this property
Mm.
as well. I know.
I am both
Like
excited and still horrified.
like in October. So
I can go watch the Jason Hosborn right now.
yeah, you can. You can
Well,
watch
that's
his. I'm like
happening.
really excited about Project Fear and Expedition X. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, they might already be released, but I think they're coming out in November. So, and I only know that because I was at the orphanage this summer. I was talking to the owner, Tom, and he was telling me that they were just there recording
I
like a
thought
few
you were
weeks
gonna
before.
say I was there and they showed up, and I was gonna be
That
like,
would be awesome.
"You didn't tell me. I'm so mad
Yeah, I would have been mad too.
at yourself."
Yeah, yeah, for not telling you. But in reality, I would have texted you like a secret horrible picture that I took from across the room, but pretended I was just texting on my phone, but really I was snapping like paparazzi stalker photos, being like, look, Project Fear's here.
Do you not
Anyway.
remember the first time though that you met them when only I know who they were and we were at the con in Vegas and I went up to their table and you complimented Chelsea's shirt like she was just anybody. You were just like, "Oh, I love your sweater."
Yeah, I remember that because I mean, she is just anybody, just like the rest of us. And then I asked her where she bought it, and I went
Yeah,
and bought the same sweater because
yeah,
I
you
liked it
did.
so much. Yeah.
That was
Um,
great. That was so funny.
back to the hauntings. I didn't
The
get very far.
hauntings.
So, EVP recordings have captured the sounds of children whispering and laughing, as well as cries for help. Those who visit the cellar today will also see various toys strewn about the grounds that have been left for the kids, likely a gesture of remembrance and kindness. However, they often move around, appearing in different places than where they were left. Many have speculated that some of Rosa's cared for children went missing under her reign of horror. Like I just said, so it's possible that some of the children might still be there, but I would hope to think that maybe the children's EVPs are residual. One investigation resulted in an image of a woman thought to be the spirit of Rosa Carmichael. Maybe she herself is trapped in the dungeon as punishment for her crimes since she didn't get very much punishment when she was alive. Who
I
knows?
like that idea personally.
So, in Jason Hawes's recent investigation, his co-host does see a figure standing behind Jason, but the cameras don't capture it, unfortunately.
Oh,
They hear knocks, thumps, voices as from a distant television, little kid coos and giggles, as well as these like unusual scratching sounds that are picked up heavily on the recorder, but not in real time. So it's kind of as if like fingernails are scraping the actual microphone or recorder.
Or
Isn't that
like a kid
weird?
is scraping a barrel to get out.
I hope not, but it's more like on the mic. Like,
Yeah, that's strange to be on the mic for sure.
yeah, like, but maybe a kid or who knows, some spirit is like, what is this box? Let me pet it or something, right? Who knows?
Could be.
While Jason's team is in the basement, the REM pod hits a few times and they hear walking overhead when no one else is in the building. Sam and Colby also investigated the orphanage in 2024 and they catch legitimate footsteps coming up the basement stairs towards them when they're about to go down. Their cameras die, their EMF detector goes off on cue in the pit. They also do an Estes method session in the pit itself, and they surmise from their interaction during the Estes method that they're connecting with a demon or a devil entity of some kind. In fact, they're so moved by this Estes method session and think it's so demonic that they warn their viewers to possibly skip the orphanage when they're investigating in Gettysburg. They think it's
Hmm,
too dark to investigate.
that's interesting. Although, there are a lot of places that Sam and Colby have gone where they've thought it was demons. And I'm not saying it isn't. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Who
Hmm.
knows for sure?
I mean, I think a lot of paranormal entertainers like to go to that direction maybe a little too easily sometimes.
Because I do believe it can be a negative entity or negative energy or a bad person from life.
Right.
And none of those things are demons, but honestly, some are just as bad.
One of my fellow APS members on the paranormal study group that I'm a member of had a personal experience in the basement of the orphanage. So I'm going to recount her story for you. My experience at the Gettysburg Orphanage happened during an Estes Method workshop, part of the very first paranormal research symposium we held there. We were in the basement, the old stone cellar, the one that everyone talks about. The air was damp and still, and the light barely reached the corners. The workshop leader asked for volunteers, and my friend Cindy and I both stepped forward. We each put on headphones connected to a device scanning radio frequencies at a very high speed. We, of course, couldn't hear the questions being asked, just the static and the fragments of broken sound. We weren't blindfolded, but we did keep our eyes closed. Our hands were covering them to block everything out. As the session went on, Lisa, that was the coordinator, and the others asked questions to whatever might be in the room. Even though Cindy and I couldn't hear a single word, both of us started giving responses, and somehow they lined up perfectly with what was being asked when we reviewed everything. While we sat there, we both felt movement around us. It seemed like people were walking back and forth in front of us the entire time. Slow steps, close enough to stir the air in front of your face. But when Lisa stopped the session and we asked who'd been moving around, she said no one had. Everyone had stayed seated the entire time. She'd ended the session after asking, "Where do you want to go?" And apparently I answered, "With you."
Mm.
That's when she told whatever was there could not leave the orphanage, that it had to stay where it was. Before the session began, Cindy and I had both mentioned that we worked in elementary school and really liked kids. We taught children. Maybe that's why it felt so drawn to us.
But
Insane.
it was a bad thing, right? Or what not? Are we
Well,
thinking
I
it was a
don't know.
bad thing?
She kind of feels, she does feel when I've talked to her that there is something evil there. But in that session, she feels like there might have been a little boy that wanted to go home with her.
I
So
honestly still like the idea of thinking it's something evil in that equation because you don't want to think it's the
that the
spirit of a
kids are
little
there.
boy.
Yeah. So, other visitors to the orphanage have reported childlike giggles and whispers in empty rooms, small handprints appearing on dusty furniture and windows, unseen presences tugging at clothing, especially women's skirts, sudden drops in temperature, cold spots, and unexplained shadows, the sound of chains rattling or quiet sobbing coming from the basement, bouts of nausea from investigators, and EVP sessions have picked up on angry growls or firm commands like silence or no. One of the most infamous sightings is that of a young girl in a tattered dress who's been seen both upstairs and down. She never speaks, but she often makes eye contact. So while I was visiting Gettysburg this summer, I had the pleasure of speaking to the current caretaker, Tom Demko. He is a jolly man and a great caretaker of the space. He currently lives on the second story of the orphanage, which used to be the matron's quarters. He
Brave
told me,
man.
yeah, exactly. He told me that he has had three different mediums visit the space who didn't know each other and they came at different times. And all three mediums mentioned that an evil creature resides at the orphanage with hooves and a tail.
Weird.
So that's a scary coincidence.
Do you happen to know if that's public knowledge that you could look up online psychic accounts of demons at the orphanage and that's the description that would come up, or was that
Yeah,
more?
well, I couldn't find anything. The only mention of it is that he told me this, and it was
Hmm.
also, he also told Jason Hawes in his recent investigation the same information.
Hmm.
But that's after all three had visited, right?
So there was no way to like make it up based on what somebody else had said, like where they looked up the
Right.
property ahead of time. That's kind of what I was
Yeah.
getting at. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom
Mm.
also told me that he himself has had paranormal experiences there often. He will be walking to the bathroom and the door will open for him before he gets there. Doors will slam in the building when no one is there. And one afternoon 4 years ago, after napping on his couch on the second story, he woke up and standing in front of him was a tall woman with a stern face. She was in black Victorian dress with a top bun. And just like the rest of us, he closed his eyes and threw the blanket over his head. And to this day, he believes it was Rosa.
I would believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the stone walls of the old orphanage have absorbed everything, the laughter, the prayers, the pain. The story of the homestead begins in love and ends in loss. But it remains one of Gettysburg's most unforgettable chapters, a reminder that history isn't always written in monuments and glory. Sometimes it lingers in the quiet rooms we should also never forget.
I like that. I think it's really important. Everybody take note.
So that was your scary, dark Halloween haunting from me.
So do
So,
we think then, like, if you had to say, right? If you had to say right now, what entities you think existed there, if there are multiple, what do you believe personally?
so I was in the space, right? And while I was in
Mhm.
the space, I was leading a symposium, a paranormal symposium. And so there was always lots of people coming and going. I did get a private tour from Tom of the basement. So it was just me and Tom and one other person down there. And I didn't feel anything. I didn't linger long. I often just go into historic places and can feel like the weight of the history. And it
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's necessarily haunted, but I will always choose to believe that kids
Or moved on
don't
or
haunt. Like,
yeah.
that's just what I personally want to believe. But I
Mhm.
also know that there's lots of locations out there where people believe there are little kids active. And we don't know what happens to Rosa after she leaves Gettysburg. We don't know the rest of her life story. We don't know how she dies. And there is some theories out there that I read that a dark entity already existed in the property and people theorize about how a dark entity would have gotten there before the orphanage, but they think maybe Rosa was there long enough for it to take hold of her and create the savage meanness
Mm-hmm.
that she was.
Although
And maybe that dark entity still remains there.
the first lady, who was the widow, didn't.
Right, but she was only there for 3 years, and Rosa there was there for almost 9. And
Hmm.
so I don't know. I mean, that's just one of the theories out there.
Do they think it existed due to all the bloodshed of it being like a hospital at one point,
Yeah,
or
that's one of the theories is that all the bloodshed and turmoil, that energy created something negative. Other
hmm
people say that the location is so close to one of the major battlefields that the injuries that would have been seen there would have been catastrophic. Like you would have had live bodies piled up on top of each other just because they weren't able to save everybody, right? Kind of like
hmm
you can't be saved, so we're already putting you in this pile kind of situation. And people say like those kind of circumstances could cause people to make deals with the devil and bring in negative entities. So this is all allegedly, right?
hmm
So no one knows, of course.
it is possible that something negative can exist, I think, that isn't active until it's triggered by something, maybe, or is like awoken by something.
Mm,
Because I think if you go into a place and you actually have good intentions and you're positive and you're laughing and you're having a good time, you're hanging out with the people you love, and it's all very positive, I think that anything that's negative there is just trounced. Like it doesn't matter. It's not triggered. There's nothing to for it to like feed off of,
right,
whether it's a demon or not, like regardless of that, just the negativity in general, I think couldn't come to life because you're building that positivity. So when the matron was the widow and her kids and life was positive and she was doing good, happy things with the kids that were there, maybe there was something negative, but it just didn't have anything to feed off of.
right, because a kid's natural spirit is so light and
Mm-hmm.
joyful, even in the worst of situations, right? You're
Yeah.
still just a kid at heart.
So maybe it
So,
just got worse and worse over time when things got more dire, when more kids came in, there was more crowding,
hmm.
more fear.
What is your boo rating?
I always forget, did we say a 4 is that we would go but not sleep there alone? Or a 5 is that,
A 5 is not go there at all,
okay,
and a 4 is go there but not
not sleep
sleep
alone
there, not be alone. Yeah.
or be alone in general?
I think it's be alone.
That's tough. I think that it might be a 4 for me. I'm going to say 4.
Dun dun dun. Okay. Well, that being said, a 4 means you would go there but just not be alone there, which is probably safe. But as one more Halloween surprise, Laura, I have arranged for us to do an investigation there.
What if I had said 5? Like, oh wow,
I
we're
would have
going
said,
anyway.
I would have said, too bad. I've already made arrangements for us to
That's awesome. Okay, I'm excited to go check it out.
go.
Let's
So
do
we'll have to
this.
go do an investigation, check it out for ourselves, so you can tell me what you think.
So I would give it a 4 and not be alone because I do think when you're dealing with something that is so negative, again, it's regardless, it doesn't have to be a demon, but if you want to call it that, you can, that you really should be safe about it. And that being alone, if you feel any inkling of not necessarily a weakness, but if you feel any inkling of fear, that it's going to capitalize on that, the negativity will capitalize on that. And that's not something to mess with. I
Mm,
will happily investigate a place, but I just think it's safer to be with somebody doing that, with another person doing that, because your own fear can cause accidents and things too. And it's just not, it's just not something you want to mess with. So I think I
right.
would be scared though to be like it makes me a little bit afraid, the idea of the basement, especially
I mean,
all that energy
I
and
would never go to the basement and sit there alone. And I'm interested to watch Project Fears
yeah,
episode when it
wow.
comes out because that's their thing. But if you had to be alone in the basement or in the basement pit, which is deeper into the basement and more
Hmm.
scary, like I cannot, I would never. It is so scary down there with the lights on, but with
I am
people.
excited to watch them do it and to be like, you guys are so brave. I'm
Right.
not going to do it.
Right. And we can use the information, whatever they say on their episode, we can kind of catapult our investigation off of that since it will
Yeah.
be probably next year sometime.
Yeah. That'll be cool. Would you also give it a 4 then?
My rating would be a 4. Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, I didn't feel anything when I was there before. So it almost makes me feel like a 3 because I myself didn't have any experiences. But then again, I wasn't investigating, right? Or
Hmm.
trying to have an experience or feel things out. So we'll see. We'll see when we go. It'll be interesting to redo the boo scale and be like, I will never go back. Right? 5.
A
Um,
6. I shouldn't
right.
have been there in the first place.
A new scale. Okay, so that's that.
So today I will be talking to you about a story that includes two accounts that concern the death of unborn children. So if you don't feel comfortable with that topic, feel free to skip this particular haunting and come back to our next one because we love you listening and we just want to make sure that we protect you and that you feel safe here. Okay.
What is with our Halloween's episode being about scary things with children?
I know both of ours had children. That's just so random.
Right.
Random
We
things with
always have
children.
weird connections.
Okay, so my haunt today is Bobby Mackey's in Wilder, Kentucky.
Oh
Also,
my gosh.
what?
That's so funny that you're doing this because I was this close
No way.
to doing this for Halloween. I'm like putting up my fingers like you can see them. Like this close to doing this because I had just, what was it? Oh, I had just seen a long post by,
Chip.
yes, by Chip.
Yeah,
I had
that's what I'm
just
just
seen
gonna say.
a
Okay,
long
this is
post by
perfect.
Chip.
Okay, so I chose this location because of the post that I saw by our favorite medium, Chip Coffee. And his post says this: I am often asked if there is any reportedly haunted location that I would not go to. And the answer used to be yes. I say used to be because the place that I would not visit has been torn down. Bobby Mackey's in Wilder, Kentucky. History and legends. And he goes into the history and legends, which I'll get into in my story. But at the end, he says, I was told by my spirit partners never to go to Bobby Mackey's, and I never did. And I will never visit the site of this former nightclub. And I thought to myself, sheesh, if Chip Coffee's not going there, I probably don't want to go there.
Jeez, that's exactly what I was thinking. And then I and then I was so close to doing it. And then I thought, I don't have the bandwidth to do this. So I'm glad that you did it.
Because
Okay.
there are so many stories and so many accounts and so many people, different haunted groups have gone there.
Mm-hmm.
It's immense. So I'm going to do my best to cover it. To paint a little picture, outside of the building is nothing spectacular. An unassuming brick building with chipping paint, positioned next to a railroad track and just a short walk to the river. But upon stepping up to the entrance of Bobby Mackey's Music World, the first thing you would see is a sign. Warning to our patrons. This establishment is purported to be haunted. Management is not responsible and cannot be held liable for any actions of any ghosts and spirits on these premises.
It's like one of those
Hence,
signs.
yeah, exactly. Hence the signs that I mentioned. Because I
Oh,
thought to myself, if I went to a place that had this sign, would I go in? Heck yes.
right. All of us listening to this episode right now, we're like, let's get it.
And
Tell
also
me.
tell me all the stories right now.
Right.
Inside Bobby Mackey's is a warehouse style open concept bar with wood paneling, beer signs, and the kind of dim red and purple lights that make you feel like you stepped into a swanky underground nightclub in a big city. Aside from the mechanical bull, that is. An altogether very different sign there reads El Turbo the Bull, $8 per ride. On the other side of the bar is a stage, one where music came alive. This was the dream of the bar's namesake, Bobby Mackey, a country singer and man who quite simply doesn't believe in ghosts. So why the sign? No, no, not the bull one. That would make sense. Why the sign out front warning patrons of ghosts? The answer to that is because a man that was a bar regular named J.R. Costigan reported that he was attacked in the men's bathroom. He was washing his hands one day when he gazed up in the mirror to see a looming dark shadow in the shape of a man wearing a cowboy hat, who then proceeded to punch, kick, and beat him.
Proceeded to punk.
Punk him. Proceeded to punk him.
Decided to punk you out.
Who then proceeded to punch, kick, and beat him until he went unconscious. When he awoke, he complained to Bobby Mackey, who laughed it off until he was sued by the man for negligence in not informing the patrons of the bar's evil spirits. The judge threw out the case, but Bobby, to protect his business, was recommended to post the warning sign. I thought that was kind of funny that the judge threw it out.
Well, I think you have to,
Like
because
you
you
can't
can't
prove that you were
prove
there's
that
no
you were
real person.
attacked
Yeah,
by a spirit. But I like that he's like, I'll just put up the sign. It
right.
kind of harkens back. What year was that?
October 23rd, 1993.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say it kind of harkens back to that 90s era where people were suing over hot coffee and fingers in chili that didn't exist. And right, they were trying to find, and that's why we have warnings on coffee that coffee is hot, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like the
So we were just
same
trying to find
time
any means
period.
to sue anybody.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So why
true.
not try the ghost in the bathroom that punked me?
Punched you.
From now on, it's punked.
More stories of eerie encounters and unexplainable happenings have poured in from patrons and employees alike over its history, combining to earn it the reputation of the most haunted nightclub in all America. I'll get to some of those stories later, but first, you might be wondering what could have happened here to create such a ghost hotspot. Well, let me tell you a lot. Originally, on the very same property in 1850 was a slaughterhouse and meatpacking plant. And while there's nothing paranormal about that, it does have a very creepy feel, especially when you consider that it had an in ground well in the basement specifically for draining blood, innards, and other biological waste through the ground out to the river. And that very same well remains, even though it has now been filled in. And back in that day, you just drained it right into the river, because why not? That's
Yeah.
how sewage worked. That's so weird to think about. The Bloody Well made the perfect place for local Satanists to gather. When the slaughterhouse shut down in the 1890s and the original building was abandoned, it is said that a local satanic group found the well in the basement and began to make their own sacrifices and perform rituals that capitalized on the idea that blood had flowed through the well daily for years.
Oh,
So,
gosh.
yikes.
I am not a fan of blood, guys. I can't handle it. I faint at the sight of blood. It
Which
is,
is why we're doing this story. No, I'm
which
just
is
kidding.
why
That's
I
not why
probably
I
chose
chose
not
it.
to do this. Oh.
If you thought that was dark, just wait. In 1896, just a few miles away from this supposed satanic hotspot, police recovered the headless body of a young pregnant woman. Initially, they couldn't identify her, which had likely been the very reason her head was removed. There were footprints showing at some point that a man and woman had walked side by side before the woman ran and was thrown down. The scene showed other signs of a struggle that I won't go into. A dull blade had then severed her neck completely, but at what point she died in that struggle was unclear.
No. You're just not having a fight with your partner and your head gets chopped off. Man, I wish we knew that story. Like, is it the mistress,
We
right?
do
Is
know
it?
some of the story that I'll get
Oh,
into.
okay.
And the reason we know that is not because her head was ever found, but the police eventually did identify her. And Autumn, since you're such a crime and murder sleuth like me, can you guess how she was eventually identified without a head?
Fingerprints?
I have on here, say very close, even if she's not close.
Does that mean I'm not close?
No, because fingerprint
Uh,
analysis didn't exist then yet.
where the thread for her dress came.
Oh, that is actually very close.
Oh, great.
It
Yes.
was, in fact, her shoes.
Oh, I'm so close. Okay.
Okay, so points to you. There was a maker's mark in her shoes that could be traced back to a shoemaker in Greencastle, Indiana. The maker recognized the shoes as a particular pair he had altered and customized for a young lady in an affluent family who went by the name of Pearl Bryan, and thus the victim was identified. So, of course, her family came in and also helped identify her, but that was how we got to that point because there was no other means at that time for
Could
finding
you
out who she
could you
was.
identify me without a head?
Good question. A lot of people would look at things like tattoos and birthmarks and different things like that.
Yeah,
I don't know that I could because, like, you don't have any tattoos or birthmarks that I can think of that I would be like looking for.
right.
So, Pearl Bryan was the youngest daughter of 12. 12
Oh my gosh.
from a well to do family. She had graduated top of her high school class, was a Sunday school teacher, and had many, many admirers in her town. She was kind of considered like the belle of the town. Everybody loved her. All these guys wanted to be with her, but she wasn't really interested in them. And then one summer, her friend and her cousin, Will Wood, introduced her to a guy by the name of Scott Jackson. And I put in my notes, he was the complete rake of a man. You know what that's from? Such a
No.
rake. It's a Bridgerton thing.
Oh. In what season?
What, like all of them? At some point, every guy is called a rake in Bridgerton. It just
What?
means that they're like a playboy.
I don't remember hearing that.
This guy he was a bad boy and he did kind of use women a lot. But she didn't know any of that. She just saw this guy who was really handsome and charismatic. And of course, that meant she fell in love with him. Not only did she fall in love with him, but she soon came to be with child.
Oh dear. Here we go.
And being 22 years old in a family that was well to do, it was a condition she knew nothing about and feared that the scandal would ruin her family. She reached out to her cousin, Wood, who in turn contacted Jackson, and together they hatched a plan for an abortion. In that time period, there weren't any safe ways to do that. Let's just put it that way.
No, there's only horrible ways.
After a few failed chemical attempts where they had sent her things to try to take that didn't change her condition, they helped her travel to Kentucky for a medical answer. Pearl Jackson and Jackson's associate, who was his roommate, were seen at several seedy establishments before taking a carriage into the country. The carriage driver heard the woman moaning and saw her having trouble walking as she was led from the carriage. And the theory is that they had dosed her with something to try to abort her baby, or possibly just to make it easier for them to take her somewhere. But what happened after, we can only guess. According to the press, it was the most diabolical, cold-blooded, premeditated outrage ever committed in a civilized community. Well, at least during that time. And that, of course, brings us back to Bobby Mackey's. It is believed by some that Jackson and his associate were among those dabbling in dark rituals at the abandoned former slaughterhouse. The theory is that after removing her head, they took it to the abandoned building and disposed of it in the old well, thinking it would be lost among the blood and the bones already there. In fact, Jackson's associate said when they were interrogated by police that Jackson had taken various pieces of her and his clothing and other items to various locations, including the sewers and the river.
Oh my gosh.
The two men were found guilty and eventually hanged. And it is said, though that I couldn't find a written account of it, that Jackson's associate vowed to return and haunt the area just as the noose was put around his neck, which is creepy in its own right.
Wow.
All of this, by the way, is going to be in a news report that we're going to link in on our webpage that you can go and read. It's like a 40-page document, and it's titled The Mysterious Murder of Pearl Bryan, or The Headless Horror.
How many people
And
do you think are going to go read that 40-page
if they're
story?
interested, it's really interesting. You can read different parts of the interrogation. You can read more about her life beforehand, more about their lives, the people who did it, Jackson included. You can basically just understand all the ins and outs of the court case, how the police did the work they did. You can read graphic details about the scene of the crime if you really want to know.
This one murder could be just a story in itself.
Yeah, it really could be. Later in the 1920s, the slaughterhouse was knocked down and something else built in its place. A speakeasy, of course. What else in the 1920s, right? But the man who owned it did too well. It caught the attention of a mob, and they strong-armed him out of the business. He was making too much money. So in 1946, he was forced to sell to them, at which time he disappeared to Florida, where he ended up at one point committing suicide.
That is why you don't do your job well.
So the mob doesn't take it over?
Yes.
All right, you heard it here. Everybody's
Just do everything 50%.
50% is the new 110%.
Yeah. Of course, we always give 100% to our podcasting.
Right,
But
that's different. In the 1950s, the club, still owned by the mob, was called the Latin Quarter. The story goes that there was a young girl by the name of Johanna, who is the daughter of the mob owner, and she fell in love with a singer at the club, she herself being a dancer there. When she became pregnant, the two planned to run away together until her father had him murdered before they could do so. In her grief, Joanna then killed herself in the dressing room in the basement by taking poison. And you guessed it, that dressing room's right by that well.
wow. So at this time, I'm guessing the well was covered up already.
Yes, as far as I know. And it
Okay.
gets uncovered in a little bit in the story. It is no surprise that the basement is said to be the most haunted part of the bar. In particular, women feel very unwelcome and have felt pushed toward the exit, as if someone is trying to get them to leave or scare them away. Could it be one of the women who met their tragic end, trying to protect other women, especially those who may be also pregnant? Johanna's spirit is felt both downstairs and on the main floor, where people feel an overwhelming sense of sadness. People have even said that they've seen a figure of a woman whose form will disappear, leaving the lingering scent of rose perfume. Reports of Johanna's haunting are so widespread that Bobby Mackey himself was inspired to write the song Johanna about her and her ghost presence.
Wow. That's cool.
Even though he doesn't believe.
He
He's
still
like,
wrote a
no,
song about
I
it.
don't believe in ghosts, but we're going to just tell this story of this one.
Did you listen to the song?
Yeah, I like
Can you
it.
can you sing it for us?
Well, it's her
Oh, it's just
name
a person's
mostly. It's
name.
like, Johanna, Johanna, where are you now?
Aw, that's cute.
And it
Maybe
and it
maybe
talks about her perfume and other things, experiences they have there.
cute. Maybe we link it. We can link the song.
Yeah, we can do that. One of Bobby Mackey's biggest inspirations to believe the stories was his own wife. Bobby's wife regularly helped at the bar even when she became pregnant. Dun dun dun.
Uh-oh.
One day, when she was vacuuming the stairs of the basement, she felt large, strong arms wrap around her waist. Thinking it was her husband, she laughed and turned toward him, only to see no one there. That's when the
Oh,
force caught her off balance and threw her down the stairs. A voice then echoed, as if in her mind, "Get out!"
that would
And
be so disturbing.
and
Yeah.
ever since that, from that point, she refused to enter the bar. So, because of that and a couple other things that have happened there, people think also that there's potential that one or two of the murders of Pearl Bryan maybe ended up haunting here.
Wow.
So, that's scary. to think about
Yeah.
that they're going after as if trying to kill other pregnant women. One
Oh
of
gosh.
Bobby's managers, who regularly closed the bar, would go through the motions of locking all the doors, turning off the lights, etc., only to return the next day to open and find all of the doors unlocked, the lights on, and the jukebox playing music.
Ooh, that's significant.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah, that is a lot of energy that has to be manipulated.
Another account from the 1990s was when a car lost control and smashed into a telephone pole outside the club. The occupants were killed instantly, which in and of itself is a little bit strange because it's as if there's a curse on the property, the number of deaths that have happened around that area. So when it at one point became a bikers bar, there were deaths there as well from the gangs and rowdy participants. The mob was there. You can imagine that they also killed people on and around the property. The slaughterhouse and the murders with that. And then of course Pearl Bryan's murder that happened less than 2 miles away. So think about just all the death that seems to happen around the land, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Like, what came first, right? The
Mm-hmm.
curse or the egg? Was it curse before, or did all of this death continue to invite death?
Yeah. And to add mystery to that car accident episode, the first officer on the scene claimed that a woman in an evening gown emerged from the direction of the club and offered him tablecloths to cover the dead so that people passing by wouldn't see them until the ambulance came and they were cleaned up. And when he returned a week later to thank the woman for her kindness, he was sure there that she had to be some kind of management. So he asked around about her, and nobody could figure out who she was or if she even ever existed.
Well, that's so strange. We've had those hauntings before where people are like, "Oh, your children were so great on that tour." And they're like, "What children?
It
I
always
don't
surprises me
have."
because these people think that they're real people that they're dealing with, and they're
Yeah,
so convinced that they have this real life interaction. They have nothing notable about them to say that they were a spirit, and then they find out nobody was really there. It's just so
right.
bizarre.
Like they imagined it the whole time. Yeah,
Yeah. So one
spooky.
of the other really crazy accounts, actually several of them, came from one person in particular. The first man Bobby Mackey hired to help operate the establishment, and his name was Carl Lawson. Carl Lawson told Bobby that there was a mouth to hell in the basement from which came voices, shadow figures, and phantom footsteps. He lived on the property in the apartment upstairs and kept a shotgun by the bed. On several occasions, he reportedly dreamed of a young woman who said her name was Johanna and urged him to dig in the basement. As he and Bobby were cleaning up the basement, they uncovered the infamous well, its round, gaping mouth now exposed, the dirt having shifted and sunk in over the course of time and the passing rail cars. Carl became convinced his experiences originated there as demons unleashed as soon as the well was uncovered. He also claimed to have found Johanna's journal and a poem written by her in the attic of the building, from which a lot of the story originates, although the items have been lost or possibly never existed. After being plagued with the nightmares and feeling attacked in his sleep, Carl Lawson eventually had to have an exorcism. Now, a lot of people don't believe in exorcisms or demons, and I get that. But this exorcism, there's actually a video of it. It exists online if you want to go find that.
I've always wondered if some people are more likely to be not possessed, but I don't know, uninhibited to that kind of energy or being
As if being
manipulated or
hypnotized, like the same sort of
kind
thing as a
of,
hypnosis.
yeah, or spirits being drawn more into
Mm,
certain people or drawn to
yeah.
certain people. Like energy picks up more around someone's energy versus someone else's for some reason, right? I feel like that's an unexplored area of the paranormal.
Mm-hmm. We already talked about this a little bit, but some claim that the paranormal may not be caused by the building's history, but rather the history of the land itself. Psychic mediums and sensitives have said ley lines or burial grounds or even elementals may have resided there long before anything had been built. I also considered when researching that if there had been a slaughterhouse there, It's possible that the trauma and blood of the animals themselves might have awoken something in the land or simply charged it with negative energy. Ghost Adventures investigated this location on their very first episode that ever aired. In that episode, they heard humming in the bathroom, the men's bathroom, after a bang on the wall that startled one of them simply while they were using the bathroom, which I thought was funny. They also
Wow.
heard a female whimper in the attic and caught a few EVPs, including what sounded like part of a conversation where a female said, please, and was answered by a male that said, precious, no.
Precious Snow?
I thought that was a cute nickname for somebody. I was like, oh,
Precious Snow. Maybe he's talking to a cat. Sounds like a cat.
a cat named Precious.
A cat ghost. Precious Snow.
Then what would the please have been?
The cat saying please.
Okay. They also caught footage of a shadow figure in the basement that I thought was pretty strange. I don't always 100% agree with Ghost Adventures or think that all of their evidence is true or factual 100%, but the footage looked honest to me, and it did seem like there was a shadow figure down there. It was a little bit strange. So check that out if you want to. Again, it's just
Yeah.
season 1, episode 1. They also returned in season 4, episode 3, where they had a few things that were spoken by the spirit box that were pretty amazing. They had, say, enemy spirit, bad memories, the name Scott, as
Hmm.
in the killer, and I killed Pearl Bryan.
That's very specific.
I know the spirit box actually said it. And sometimes I have to say, when groups say that they hear things on the spirit box and I'm listening, I tend not to hear it or think it says something completely different. But in this case, I actually heard that.
That's really strange.
So unless they somehow doctored it, which I don't even know if that's possible, it actually said that, which is just crazy.
Yikes.
And
That's
for
very
people who are
odd.
new to the paranormal or haven't listened to us before, the spirit box picks up radio frequencies and it scans through them. So to get a one word that might be related to something you're doing, I mean, that could be coincidence, but to get several words all together that make a phrase like that is entirely not possible.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think beyond all this evidence, though, the thing about this haunting at Bobby Mackey's that personally scares me the most is what happens to people after they leave. Are you ready for this?
Okay. Maybe.
So, the crew of Ghost Adventures, for instance, all stated that they had ghost activity at home right after filming. Nick Groff, at the time, who was with Ghost Adventures, had pots and pans moved in his kitchen. Zach's girlfriend at the time had a necklace ripped off, and Aaron's wife had nightmares, and they argued to the point of them actually getting a divorce, which he said he believes was caused by this place and this haunting.
Yikes. That's really scary. That's maybe the most scariest part because you never want anything to attach itself or follow you home. So for it to continue to do very
Physical
significant
things.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew.
And in addition to that, if you think to yourself, oh, well, that's just Ghost Adventures and they like to dramatize things and ham things up, right?
Yeah.
Well, a similar thing happened when Jack Osborne and Katrina Weidman visited for Portals to Hell. They visited, okay, so this was episode 3 of season 1. And during their investigation, they interviewed locals and had them show of hands if they felt that the energy of Bobby Mackey's was positive. None of them raised their hands out of all the
Mm.
locals that they had there. But then they asked if the people there had something bad happen to them or if something had followed them home when they left. And more than half raised their hand.
Just from like going to the bar.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's like attaching to people who aren't even trying to interact with it.
Right? Who are just patrons.
Yikes.
Then, after returning home, at the very end of the episode, it skips ahead in time and catches up with Jack doing an interview from home. And he says that after returning home, both him and Katrina ended up in the ER within 48 hours for two different reasons.
That's so weird.
So it's like the bad luck and bad energy can just follow you.
Yeah, that's probably why Chip was like, nope.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking the
Especially for
same thing.
someone like a medium who's
Hmm.
open to, opening that doorway if it's already attaching itself to people who aren't opening that doorway.
Right. I
Like,
agree with you.
gosh.
Bobby Mackey's The Building was demolished earlier this year in March, but there are supposedly plans to rebuild on the same site from the ground up. And though Bobby himself claims he doesn't believe in ghosts, he still had a priest perform a blessing on the property before demolition, which I thought was really
Interesting.
interesting.
I
Then
think he's lying.
I think some people don't want to believe, so they're kind of like, no, I don't believe. But we're just going to be safe about this, just in case.
Right.
Also, to note that this summer they did an auction fundraiser to help raise funds for the project for the building and Bobby Mackey's in general. And they sold off iconic pieces from the original establishment, such as the mechanical bull. And I thought that that was interesting because there's so many people who kind of collect haunted artifacts that I'm wondering if anybody like Zach Baggins or somebody else might have bought some of this stuff that we'll end up seeing somewhere. Like this is Bobby Mackey's plate collection.
Oh, maybe. I was just thinking, though, it could have easily attached itself to things, especially if it
Mm-hmm.
was going to be torn down. No way am I buying anything that came from there.
Yeah, if it had a choice of that, but I still think it might be something connected to the land or the well. And the well supposedly still exists because it's just basically a hole in the ground.
Right, it probably is always going to exist.
Yeah,
It still once contained that
all that
amount
stuff.
of
Yeah.
blood and death, like right there in that concentrated space.
Hmm. Do you think cadaver dogs could tell the difference between human and animal blood and remains? I'm thinking they could. Somebody could take
Yeah,
a cadaver dog to that spot and see if they smell anything.
I think they could, but I don't think they can after so long.
True. Yeah, that was probably too long of a time.
Yeah.
So the question of when, if ever, the establishment might return is unknown, at least to that location. It still doesn't exist right now in a temporary location. So we'll see what the future holds. But I'll sum up today with this. Due to its country charm, lively music, and mysterious past, Bobby Mackey's holds memories for thousands of people. From those who came for a beer every night to those who traveled across the world to visit a well known haunted hotspot. Though the building is gone, the spirit of Bobby Mackey's music world lives on. But whether something else was born in the dark void between established facts and history, perhaps we will never know.
Lovely
The
and
end.
scary. I was like just thinking about all that information when you ended it, and I wasn't sure what to say because it's too much.
I think in nature, and this includes man and what we do, energy is neither created nor destroyed. And there's always a push and a pull to pretty much everything in nature. Think of the tide, think of things like that, right?
Hmm.
So, for every bit of death that happens and trauma that happens, where does that energy go? What does it do at that point? That's my question. And I don't think it does just die. I think it does go somewhere. It's stored somewhere potentially. It turns into other kinds of energy. It, feeds the
Hmm.
land or feeds the air or feeds people in the area or whatever. Like it has to go somewhere.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
too much technicality for a
Are
Halloween
you
show.
saying that we're not scientists?
We're not scientists.
Isn't that the truth?
So tomorrow, when you dress up everybody and you go out with your kids trick-or-treating, just keep in mind that the energy you put out in the world comes back. Wahahaha. Just kidding.
I don't understand that.
So, Autumn, what is your boo scale rating of Bobby Mackey's Music World?
I think it's a five for me because it's one of those places like Huska Castle where I don't need to visit and I don't need to investigate to know that there's something lurking there. And I don't
Hmm.
need to know anything more than that, especially when it seems to stay with you when you
Hmm.
leave. Like that to me means the negative energy is so powerful that even if the entity isn't with you, some kind of negative aura is still like making your aura negative, right?
Hmm.
And murky. And I don't want to have any part of that.
Would you say the same thing even with the land now that there's not a building? You wouldn't visit that site or anything that's built there?
Yeah, I think that's true.
Okay.
I'll be interested to see, what or if something is built there and then if people keep having experiences. Like I would love for a group to be like, "Hey, it's Sarah Peterson's bar now." And
Right.
we're here to investigate it and just see what it is. Also, how did
It's
like a
now a
slap
bowling alley. Let's see
yeah,
if it's still haunted.
what is your boo rating?
I was waiting for you to ask me this.
Okay.
I do think I would give this one a 5. It's my first 5.
It's your first 5. Congratulations.
And I think it's because mostly I trust Chip Coffee.
You're like, he is very reliable, right? And if
Right.
he's not going and he's been to hundreds
Yes.
of haunted places and is like, no way am I going to that space.
Then I trust his judgment and I also would not go. And
Yeah,
I think that it's hard when you're just a person and you don't have a Chip Coffee to be your scale meter to know if there's somewhere you shouldn't go, right? Because
right.
somewhere that we've already talked about could be somewhere he wouldn't also go because we just don't know that he's even heard of all these places or been to all of them necessarily. For me, I don't want to bring anything home. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't mind being scared there. I think I could handle whatever happened to me at a location, but then to not be able to leave it there, I think would just that's a no for me.
Wow. Guys, you were here for Laura's first 5. It is a day to celebrate, and it's on Halloween too.
Yep.
Did you kind of know it was going to be a 5 for you before you started investigating, or you got into it and you're like, yeah,
When I saw the post by Chip, I thought to myself, ooh, this is somewhere that could be a 5 for me. And then as I read, I wasn't really convinced up until the point that I read the part about and actually watched them interview all these people who had taken part of the energy or whatever home with
hmm
them. And that's what really got to me the most is that. So, yeah.
yeah, great work. That's a hard one. So, as the season draws to the end, I want to remind everyone that we are taking a break in between seasons, but we will do another season come this winter. But we always have secret little pop up episodes along the way. And one might be coming up in just a few weeks, but you're not going to know when it is unless you hit those subscribe buttons. So please hit those subscribe buttons on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It really helps us out, and you'll be first to know when a new episode drops.
Yeah. Follow us. Do it. Do the thing.
Push those buttons. Thanks for listening, and all.
That's great. Let's leave that in.
I mean,
Take
you're
two.
probably
Take
you're
two.
happy Halloween, everybody. Thanks for listening, and as always,
Happy
happy
haunting.
haunting. Boom chicka bow bow.